What do you remember about Turner's purchase of WCW?
I was told very little,
Right.
other than move to Atlanta.
Huh.
We don't want to pay extra airfare from Charlotte,
Right. Wow.
so move to Atlanta.
Did the boys think that something big was going to happen now that Turner was involved? More money would be put into the company?
I'm sure. Yeah, we all regard it as a positive. You know,
Right.
Ted Turner does things in big ways. You know, and we all looked at it as a positive. Definitely at the time. Come back on it. Yeah.
Now, Jim Hurd actually got involved in the company. Hurd is pretty much known as a goofy guy who did a lot of goofy angles and didn't know the wrestling business. Do you remember any proposed things that you turned down that he proposed to you?
I never. You know what? In spite of what anybody says, I have never turned down a finish, anything in my entire career. I never have ever disputed. I've just done what I've been told to do in the ring.
Right.
So, good or bad for me, because that's why I was brought into business by a hero. So, he may have. I don't recall anything like in particular. I'm going, oh, that Jim Hurd really hated me,
Right.
you know, or had it out for me, you know. So, but I'm sure there was things he had me do that probably I was kind of, one thing I think I was not abused, but I think they used the fact that I could be a babyface or a heel, which really is a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
That I could switch back and forth so many times and still be
Over.
Yeah, I mean that's
Right.
it's hard to keep it legitimate
Right.
doing that, and I thought they kind of at times took advantage of that a little bit when, like I said, when I got injured and needed a babyface or heel.
Like
It's like,
when
let's switch Lex.
Right.
He'll do it,
Right.
you know, and he'll do okay. He'll do okay job with it. You
You
know,
did it again with Sting when he got hurt. They turned you face again. So.
always
All right. What do you
like
remember?
a utility outfielder or something.
What are your memories of Brian Pillman? You had a great series with Brian.
Brian was a funny guy, man. He worked hard, played hard. He was Brian Pillman was a funny guy to be around. He was very gregarious and outgoing, and I have nothing but fond memories of Brian. I think he was a great guy.
Did you learn anything from working with him? Because your styles were so different. You know, he was the high flyer.
Sure, I mean you always do. I mean it's just through osmosis. You know, I know I couldn't do the things he did,
Right.
but I mean at the same time, I think I love guys who can do all the fancy stuff because it made me look good. You know, because if I don't do the fancy stuff and they do it,
Huh.
I'm in a match where some guys doing high flying stuff. So they go, oh, that's a good match. Look at that. And I'm involved. So I never was jealous or resentful. I'm sure you learn something, you know, out of that, and you learn when to do something, when not to. How much of it should you do? How much you shouldn't? You know, stuff like that. You know.
When do you think that if you were to sit down and say, all right, this is when I was pretty much in the business and I knew what to do and when not to do it, would it be around 88, 89 when you pretty much mastered your craft?
You know what? Once again, I had to go back. The last part of the business, you never master your craft.
You always learn.
Yeah, you're always learning. You never know it. You never can't improve. You never can't learn something. Every crowd can be different. From Europe to Boston or New York or Philly, and then go back next time, and the same crowd can be different.
Right.
You know, so you're always learning something. You know.
Memories of working with Terry Funk. You worked with him.
I
around
didn't work with him
89?
very much.
Just it was a brief thing, I think. It was around 89.
I only worked with him a few times.
Right. Did you like Terry?
Yeah, Terry, my gosh, Terry's a great guy. Once again, like Brian, funny guy.
Right.
Locker room, joking around. He's fun to have around. And yeah, Terry's a great guy.
What was the story with Ric Flair refusing to drop the title to you? I think it was around.
You know, I never looked at it that way. It wasn't refusing to drop it to me. I think he had a problem with the company.
Right.
It wasn't a problem with Lex Luger.
Okay.
And I never looked at it that way. So I never took it personal. You know,
It was politics.
I just, it was as between him and the booking committee and people in the company. I never took it personally at all because I was Rick, you know, has issues with the company.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that I knew Rick liked me personally, so I really never took it that way. In spite of rumors, I'm sure, but I never took it that way.
What do you actually remember about the political struggle between Flair and Dusty? Because there was a lot of tension between the two.
I just think they're both a couple charismatic guys who like the limelight
Huh.
in a good way
Right.
for the wrestling business, and that I think that just naturally leads to some conflict. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's just going to happen. You know, and so they clashed at times. I think over that. What do you want to call it, ego or? I don't know if that's the right word, but just it's two big illuminating figures in the same ring or in the same room, and that's going to clash sometimes. You know what I mean?
Was there ever any incidents that stood out between the two?
Oh no, nothing.
Okay. Right.
They were cordial.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know what said behind each other's back. I wasn't privy to that. At home or something,
Right.
behind closed doors. But I never saw anything real mean or nasty or mean-spirited exchanges between them,
Some wrestlers to this day are bitter towards Ric Flair for leaving WCW and taking the belt on Vince's TV with intentions of crippling the company. What are your thoughts on that? And was there like a divide in the locker room between Flair's allies and the enemies, or?
Not. I didn't feel there was any real division there. I thought some of the guys thought that was unprofessional, but they would take the belt with them. That was kind of unheard of.
Right.
Right.
He had some, I don't know, he said it was under really belt and he could take it. It was some legal thing. So
Right.
I don't think it was kind of like a legal thing. I never look at it like he personally was trying to screw WCW and all of us guys.
Right.
I never really took it that way. So Rick's Rick. He's a good guy. I think he was doing what's best for Rick. And for his family. So I never. There might have been some divisions. I think in the office stuff, of course.
Right.
Which once again I'm not privy to. I'm not kayfabe in here or anything. I've never sat in one booking meeting. So I don't know what they said about him when it happened. I'm sure they weren't happy with him.
Right.
Right.
In Flair's book, he was really hard on Bret Hart for what happened at Survivor Series and the possibilities of Bret coming to WCW with Vince's belt. Do you feel that Rick's a hypocrite because he did it to WCW and took the belt there to WWE, right time WWF?
Boy, that's the first time I ever heard Bret want to take the WWF belt to WCW.
It was a possibility that was talked about. So.
I never even heard of that.
Right.
Once again, I'm not an interneter
Right.
or I didn't read originally the rag sheets, so
Right.
all that stuff that you guys probably know 10,000 million times I didn't even know about. Not being like I don't care. I care a lot
Right.
about the business, but I wasn't
You just
had knowledge of it.
Right.